I'm calling to order this meeting. This is a regular meeting of the Committee of the Whole of the Council of the District of Columbia. I'm Phil Mendelson, Chair of the Council and Chair of the Committee of the Whole. Today is Tuesday, February 20th, 2024. The time is 11:20 in the morning. This meeting is being held in the Council Chambers, Room 500 of the Johnny Wilson Building. However, there's at least one member who's participating virtually. This meeting, as with all of our meetings, is being televised on Council Channel 13 and is available on the council's website, www.dccouncil.gov. We begin our Committee of the Whole meetings by seeing if we have a quorum. Mr. Cash, would you call the roll?
Chairman Mendelson.
Present.
Councilmember Allen.
Here.
Councilmember Bonds.
Here.
Councilmember Fruman.
Present.
Councilmember Gray. Councilmember Gray, Councilmember Henderson.
Here.
Councilmember Lewis George.
Here.
Councilmember McDuffie.
Here.
Councilmember Nadeau.
Here.
Councilmember Parker.
Here.
Councilmember Pinto.
Present.
Councilmember Robert White. Councilmember Robert White, Councilmember Trayon White. Councilmember Trayon White.
Present.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Was that 11? Thank you, Mr. Cash. We have the Secretary's report of committee filings. Mr. McDuffie,
Thank you, Chairman. I move to waive the reading of the Secretary's report.
a motion to waive the reading of the report. Is there discussion? By a voice vote, all those in favor of the motion to waive the reading, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any noes? The ayes have it unanimously. We have the Secretary's log of introductions and referrals. Again, I'll recognize the Chair Pro Tem, Mr. McDuffie.
And I will move to waive the reading of the Secretary's log of introductions and referrals.
Is there a motion to waive the reading? Is there discussion? On the motion to waive the reading by voice vote, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The ayes have it unanimously. We have four bills for markup in the Committee of the Whole. The first is Bill 25-346, which would symbolically designate 26th Street Northeast between Benning Road and H Street as Lee Elder Way, and that's the name of the bill, Lee Elder Way Designation Act of 2024. The location is in Ward 5. It's a symbolic naming, which is for ceremonial purposes and shall be in addition to and subordinate to any name that is an official name. Lee Elder was born on July 14th, 1934 in Dallas, Texas. By age 9, he was orphaned after the deaths of his father in Germany during World War II and his mother 3 months later. And he was sent to Los Angeles to live with his aunt. He dropped out of high school in the 10th grade, began supporting himself as a caddy and eventually a golf hustler. As he honed his golf skills, Mr. Elder faced racial discrimination in where and who he could play. By 1959, Lee Elder joined the Professional United Golfers Association, where he dominated the all-black group, winning 18 of 22 tournaments in 1966. In November 1967, he qualified for the PGA Tour, and in 1974, he won the Monsanto Open, which earned him an invitation to the Masters tournament. He was the first Black player ever invited to the Masters. He won 3 PGA tournaments and was named to the 1979 Ryder Cup team. From 1978 to 1981, Lee Elder managed Langston Golf Course here in the district. The oldest, and that golf course is the oldest African-American men's and women's golf club in the United States. He worked to incentivize and grow golf participation for Black players by bringing in celebrities like Joe Louis and Bob Hope. Lee Elder was a member of the National Black Golf Hall of Fame and the African American Golfers Hall of Fame. Mr. Elder passed away at his home in California on November 28th, 2021. The next year, the Langston Golf Conservancy established the annual Lee Elder Memorial Golf Charity Classic. The street proposed for designation runs along the western side of Langston Golf Course. Symbolically designating the street near the golf course will serve as a reminder of Mr. Elder's legacy in managing the course and promoting the sport of golf to new generations of Black players. The bill was introduced by Councilmember Parker on June 23rd last year. The Committee of the Whole held a public hearing on the bill on December 15th, 2023. The committee received no testimony or comments in opposition to the bill. Without objection, I'll move both the print and report with leave for staff to make technical, conforming, and editorial changes. Is there discussion? The vote will be on the print and report. Do I call a roll? Let's do a voice vote. All those in favor of the print and report with leave for staff, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any no votes? I don't see or hear any no votes. The print and report are approved unanimously. Can't do it without reading it. Madam General Counsel, is the measure legally and technically sufficient for our consideration?
Yes, it is.
Madam Secretary, is the record complete?
Once the report is filed,
Madam Budget Director, does the measure's fiscal impact statement comply with council requirements?
Yes, it does.
Without objection, this measure will be placed on the consent agenda for the March 5th legislative meeting. The next measure for markup is Bill 25-349, the Jesse Mitchell Way Designation Act of 2024. This bill would symbolically designate W Street Northwest between First and Flagler Place as Jesse Mitchell Way. The location is in Ward 5. It's a symbolic naming for ceremonial purposes and is in addition to and subordinate to any name that is an official name. Jesse Mitchell was born in Navasta, Texas in 1881. He moved to the district to take a federal government job where he studied law at Howard University, earning his degree in 1910. In 1920, he left the government to organize the Columbia Realty and Investment Company and began studying at the Wharton School of Finance at the University of Pennsylvania. In the 1930s, most banks would take the deposits of African Americans, but they would not lend to them. This led Jesse Mitchell and several associates to gather $190,000 in assets to start the Industrial Bank of Washington, a Black-owned and operated bank. The bank would lend smaller amounts of money to Black Washingtonians to build homes, businesses, or for higher education. That, in turn, led to more deposits by bank customers, growing the bank into a $7 million institution. Mr. Mitchell passed away in 1952, but Industrial Bank has been led by his descendants up until this day. The street proposed for designation abuts the home where Mr. Mitchell and his family lived while he was running the bank. Designating signage on this street will serve as a reminder of Mr. Mitchell's legacy to the district and all of the Black residents who were able to build wealth as a result of Mr. Mitchell's vision. This legislation was introduced by Councilmember Parker on June 23rd last year. And the Committee of the Whole held a public hearing on the bill on December 15th, 2023. The committee received no testimony or comments in opposition to the bill. Without objection, I'll move both the print and report with leave for staff to make technical conforming and editorial changes. Is there discussion? A voice vote. The vote is on both the print and report with leave for staff. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The motion is approved unanimously. Print and report are approved unanimously. Madam General Counsel, is the measure legally and technically sufficient for our consideration?
Yes, it is.
Madam Secretary, is the record complete?
once the report is filed,
Madam Budget Director, does the measure's fiscal impact statement comply with council requirements?
Yes, it does.
Without objection, this measure will be placed on the consent agenda for the March 5th legislative meeting. The third item for markup in the Committee of the Whole is Bill 25-415, entitled the Robert Yeldell Way Designation Act of 2024. This bill would symbolically designate Southern Avenue between Chesapeake Street and Bonini Road Southeast as Robert L. Yeldell Way. The location is in Ward 8. It's a symbolic naming for ceremonial purposes and shall be in addition to and subordinate to any name that is an official name. Robert Yeldell was born in the district on September 26, 1928. He attended DC Public Schools and graduated with honors from Cardozo High School. Mr. Yeldell's parents, Jefferson and Annie Mae Yeldell, founded the Springfield Baptist Church in 1939, and he was an active member of the church community, serving as president of every young person's organization facilitated by the church. Mr. Yeldell was very active in the Ward 8 community. He served on Advisory Neighborhood Commission 8E, and for a time as its chair, he was a member of the Democratic State Committee, the 7th District Citizens Advisory Council, and a number of task forces that supported varying aspects of the community. In 1965, Mr. Yeldell moved into the Park Southern Apartments at 800 Southern Avenue Southeast. The same year it was built. He served on the Park Southern Tenants Association for many years, where he always had an open door and devoted his own time and resources to supporting his neighbors. He worked tirelessly to ensure that youth were connected with summer jobs and to make sure that no family would go without food or presents for the holidays. After Mr. Yeldell's passing in 2007, the building was named in his honor. The Metro bus stop outside the building still states Robert L. Yeldell Towers. The street proposed for designation fronts 800 Southern Avenue. Designating signage on this street will serve as a reminder of Mr. Yeldell's commitment to his community and the lives he touched. This bill was introduced by Council Member Trayon White and co-introduced by Council Members Allen, Fruman, and Gray on July 6, 2023. Committee of the Whole held a public hearing on the measure on December 15th, 2023. And the committee received no testimony or comments in opposition to the bill. Without objection, I'll move both the print and report with leave for staff to make technical, conforming, and editorial changes. Is there discussion? The vote will be on both the print and report with leave for staff. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? I don't see or hear any no votes. The print and report are approved unanimously. Madam General Counsel, is the measure legally and technically sufficient for our consideration?
Yes, it is.
Madam Secretary, is the record complete?
The report is filed.
Madam Budget Director, does the measure's fiscal impact statement comply with council requirements?
Yes, it does.
Without objection, this measure will be placed on the consent agenda for the March 5th legislative meeting. The last measure for markup in the Committee of the Whole is Bill 25-543. The agenda says 542. And it's 542. Be clear about that. Bill 25-542, which would officially designate the public alley system in Square 989 as Sladen's Court Southeast. The location is in Ward 6. It's an official naming, typically involving the designation of postal addresses, and enables the placement of a primary residence to residences or offices. Square 989 in Ward 6 is bounded by East Capitol Street, Independence Avenue, between 11th and 12th Street Southeast. Sladen's Court is the proposed name for an alley system, most of the alley system, with an internal developable lot. The owner of the lot seeks a name for the alley in order to obtain the necessary district agency approvals for development of a lot, a garage, and a housing unit that has been approved by the Board of Zoning Adjustment and the Historic Preservation Review Board. The name Sladen comes from Richard Bruce Sladen, who was born in July 1918. He was born in a home on 120 11th Street Southeast, where he resided his entire life as an active, lifelong resident of Capitol Hill. He was an active participant in civic events and devoted a great deal of time to the Capitol Hill Group Ministry and its efforts to assist the elderly as well as residents at the DC jail. He was known as someone who was always ready to do what he could do to help his neighbors and improve his neighborhood, gaining the nickname the Mayor of 11th Street. He strove to increase the beauty and cleanliness of the parks and alleys where he lived, and until his death in April 1981, he cared for the park and alley that were adjacent to his house. In 1981, the council adopted the Richard Bruce Sladen Resolution in 1981 to support having the park and alley be named in his honor. While the park and alley are symbolically named in his honor, neither were ever officially designated. With this legislation, Sladen's Court would be the official designation of the alleyway, allowing the initiator to receive construction permits. This legislation was introduced by Councilmember Allen on October 18th of last year, and the Committee of the Whole held a hearing on December 15th. ANC 6B submitted comments in support, and the committee received no testimony or comments in opposition to the legislation. Without objection, I'll move both the print and report with leave for staff to make technical, conforming, and editorial changes. Is there discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Allen?
thank you. Just want to thank you and your staff for moving this bill forward today. You gave a pretty comprehensive history for Mr. Richard Bruce Sladen and the incredible impact he had on Ward 6 and his neighbors. So I'm not going to go over that again. I do just want to add for the record, we currently have a property that is abutting and facing the public alley system that would like to undergo construction and renovation. And as we all know, without a proper address, the Department of Buildings and other district agencies are just not able to issue the proper permits and licenses. The alley system had previously symbolically been named for Mr. Sladen, but that, of course, is not sufficient for a proper address. So this legislation is required so that neighbors can move their construction and renovation project forward. Lastly, I also want to thank Liz Paisner, who originated this request for this legislation, and for her advocacy and working with my staff and ANC 6B to be able to get the bill to this point today. And my thanks to ANC Commission 6B for acting quickly and getting that resolution of support over to the council to help with this process. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I encourage my colleagues to support this.
Thank you, Councilmember Allen. Further discussion? The vote will be on the print and report with leave for staff. All those in favor say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? I don't see or hear any no votes. The print and report are approved unanimously. Madam General Counsel, is the measure legally and technically sufficient for our consideration?
Yes, it is.
Madam Secretary, is the record complete?
Once the report is filed,
Madam Budget Director, does the measure's fiscal impact statement comply with council requirements?
Yes, it does.
Without objection, this measure will be placed on the consent agenda for the March 5th legislative meeting. We'll turn to measures from other committees, all three of which were reported out of the Committee on Public Works and Operations chaired by Councilmember Brianna Nadeau. The first is Bill 25-298, Black LGBTQ History Preservation Establishment Amendment Act of 2024. Councilmember Nadeau?
Thank you, Chairman. The Black LGBTQ History Preservation Establishment Act of 2024, Bill 25-298, was introduced by Councilmember Parker on May 26, 2023, and referred to the Committee on Public Works and Operations. The committee held a hearing on September 20th, 2023. The committee print directs the Mayor's Office of LGBTQ Affairs to research and publish a report on Black LGBTQIA+ history in the district. The report will cover various subtopics, including the Black Pride movement, history of Black trans people in DC, the impact of the AIDS crisis, Board of Education curriculum recommendations, and strategies for promoting the report. The office is required to consult with relevant stakeholders, hold public meetings, and gather public input before submitting the final report by May 1st, 2025. Rather than a commission to write the report, the committee print establishes an advisory committee to provide guidance on the report's development, comprising 6 appointed members with expertise in Black LGBTQIA+ history. The committee print also authorizes reimbursement of the committee members for their work and authorized expenses. Finally, the title of the bill is changed in the committee print to the Black LGBTQ History Preservation Amendment Act of 2024, based on feedback from the Office of LGBTQ Affairs. The committee voted unanimously to approve the committee print and report on February 8th. With that, I ask the measure be placed on the consent agenda for the March 5th legislative meeting.
Thank you, Councilmember. Are there questions from members? Councilmember Parker? Did you have a question?
Question. Councilmember Nadeau, I know there is a provision in the legislation to potentially pay commission members. Can you speak to how you see that being facilitated by the Mayor's Office of LGBTQ Affairs?
I do not want to speak to that without having more detail in front of me. I believe they do have a standard process, but I don't want to get that wrong on the record. Happy to follow up with you on that. We know it was important to ensure that they were compensated for their work, however, on principle.
Yes, I totally agree. And thank you for making sure that was included. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Councilmember Bonds?
Thank you very much, Chairman. And to Councilmember Nadeau, I'm just wondering, is the thought that this commission, if approved, would be located in the Office of LGBTQ services, or is this more ceremonial type and would therefore be perhaps located in the office of the Secretary of the District of Columbia?
Right. So originally, This was going to be a commission that was leading a study and doing all of this work. And we realized that it would be simpler and more efficient to have the office itself do it. And thus the 6 appointed members will be an advisory committee to the office as they do that work.
Okay, so that's to the Office of LGBTQ.
Affairs, that's right.
Okay, all right, okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Further questions? I have 3. Madam General Counsel, is the measure legally and technically sufficient for our consideration?
Yes, it is.
Madam Secretary, is the record complete?
Yes, it is.
Madam Budget Director, does the measure's fiscal impact statement comply with council requirements?
Yes, it does.
Is there a fiscal impact?
Yes, a small fiscal impact of $250,000
A year or over the plan?
over a 2-year period. So over 24 and 25, it will cost a total of $250,000.
There are no other questions. Thank you. If there are no other questions from members, without objection, this measure will be placed on the consent agenda for the March 5th legislative meeting. Bill 25-330, Office of Administrative Hearings, Jurisdiction Amendment Act of 2020. It says 2023. I'm assuming, General Counsel, you can check these to say 2024. Councilmember Nadeau?
Thank you, Chairman. B 25-330, the Office of Administrative Hearings Jurisdiction Amendment Act of 2023 was introduced by the chairman at the request of the mayor on June 12th, 2023. The Committee on Public Works and Operations held a hearing on December 6th, 2023. The purpose of Bill 25-330 is to permanently transfer the authority to adjudicate concealed pistol license appeals from the Concealed Pistol Licensing Review Board, or CPLRB, to the Office of Administrative Hearings. This transfer has already been made through emergency and temporary legislation moved by Councilmember Pinto and me. The transfer went into effect on October 1st, 2023. The legislation also provides for the transfer of undecided cases, appeals, and motions for reconsideration pending with the CPLRB as of that date. The legislation further grants OAH with the authority to repeal CPLRB rules of procedure and reestablish its own procedures by rule. OAH has since repealed the CPLRB rules, and as a result, concealed pistol license appeals are governed by the same OAH rules of procedure that apply to all other case types, including firearm registration appeals. There is considerable similarity in the requirements for registering a firearm and acquiring a concealed pistol license. Moreover, obtaining a firearm registration is a prerequisite for securing a concealed pistol license. These similarities often cause confusion, especially for individuals applying for both registration and license simultaneously. Adjudicating these types of cases under OAH is far more efficient. The committee print makes only one substantive change to the bill as introduced. It shifts the burden of proof, placing the evidentiary burdens of production and persuasion on the chief of MPD rather than on an individual appealing the chief's decision at a hearing in an appeal involving a firearm registration certificate or concealed pistol license. This will make permanent the change initially put in place by the Office of Administrative Hearings Jurisdiction Clarification Emergency Amendment Act 23. Committee voted unanimously to approve the committee print and report on February 8th. I ask that this measure be placed on the consent agenda for the March 5th legislative meeting.
Are there questions? Thank you, Councilmember Nadeau. Are there questions from members? General Counsel, is the measure legally and technically sufficient for our consideration?
Yes, it is.
Madam Secretary, is the record complete?
Yes, it is.
Madam Budget Director, does the measure's fiscal impact statement comply with council requirements?
Yes, it does, and there is no fiscal impact.
Thank you. Without objection, this measure will be placed on the consent agenda for the March 5th legislative meeting. The third item from the Committee on Public Works and Operations is Bill 25-432, Self-Storage Lien Enforcement Modernization Amendment Act of 2023, 2024. Councilmember Nadeau.
Thank you. The Self-Storage Lien Enforcement Modernization Amendment Act of 2023 was introduced on July 14th, 2023 by Councilmember Gray. The Committee on Public Works and Operations held a hearing on the legislation on December 6th, 2023. The bill amends the Self-Storage Act of 2003 to grant more flexibility to self-storage facilities to alleviate burdens related to abandoned vehicles, watercrafts, and trailers. Specifically, it grants facilities the ability to have these vehicles towed away and more easily sell this property. The legislation also adjusts mailing requirements related to notification. The committee print makes no changes to the bill as introduced. The committee voted unanimously to approve the committee print and report on February 8th. I ask that this measure be placed on the consent agenda for the March 5th legislative meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Are there questions from members? Madam General Counsel, is the measure legally and technically sufficient for our consideration?
Yes, it is.
Madam Secretary, is the record complete?
Yes, it is.
Madam Budget Director, does the measure's fiscal impact statement comply with council requirements?
Yes, it does, and there is no fiscal.
There's
impact.
no fiscal impact. Thank you. Without objection, this measure will be placed on the consent agenda for the March 5th legislative meeting. The next measure, which is other business, is consideration of the schedule for the public hearings for the fiscal year 2025 budget and multi-year financial plan. I was being reminded, we don't vote on these, but I circulate it and then see if there are any comments from members. And once we get through today, then the budget office will publish this. Are there any comments on this schedule? Councilmember Henderson.
Mr. Chairman, I noted that there were a couple of committees where it wasn't an agency, it just had a date reserved. When will the rest of that be filled in by?
Madam Budget Director, do you know, and can,
It will be filled in when that committee furnishes that information to us, and we will post it on our website and in the register.
yeah, and this is a reminder. So this will be published in the register, but then there will be updates that will be published in the register. Because I remember that when we do the report, it lists not all the dates, but, or maybe it does list the dates that the changes are published in the register. Just for everybody's benefit, the budget is scheduled to come to the council to be filed by the mayor on March 20th. That would be the fiscal year 2025 proposed budget, local budget act, the budget support act that accompanies it, the revised fiscal year 24 budget, the federal budget portion request act. Am I leaving anything out? I think that's it, those four measures.
The Local Budget Act.
Yeah, that was the first one I mentioned. I think. I'm being told this will all be on the hearing management system, HMS, on the council's website within the week. So the public can access it that way as well. The committees are scheduled to have hearings beginning March 25th, Monday, March 25th through Wednesday, April 10th. The committee of the whole will have a hearing on all of the measures on Thursday, April 11th. That will be an all-day hearing. Unless everybody's fine with the budget, in which case it'll be a short hearing. I was sarcastic. The markups are scheduled the week of April 23rd to April 25th. That's Tuesday through Thursday. We will have a budget work session on Wednesday, May 1st. First reading, May 14th, second reading, May 28th. And there will be an amendment nature of a substitute, and the amendment nature of a substitute will be circulated the day before. But I will talk with members. Don't get me started. The budget office works really very hard. Anybody can talk to them about this. And in fact, 1 year, the CFO's system crashed. We couldn't get a financial plan. So that's the schedule. Any other comments or questions? All right. Our next legislative meeting is our next meeting, which is the legislative meeting, is March 5th. There'll probably be a committee of the whole at the start. There being no further business, the time is 11:49 a.m. and this meeting is adjourned.